Welcome to
Separate Bathrooms. And other handy marriage tips.
I got a question on Instagram.
Yeah.
From Fern D. She said, everyone goes through tough moments early in a relationship and they walk away. You guys must have. Why didn't you quit? What are your thoughts?
Did we have tough moments? Never. Of course we did.
Are you serious?
So many.
Why didn't you quit?
Well, I mean, the simple answer to that is love. I just have unshakable love for you. And, you know, you can have that and still be married or still be in a relationship and still have to walk away.
Yeah.
Because I think that, you know, if your partner is not willing to apologize, not willing to understand their actions and say, let's work this out so that never happens again, then you're in deep trouble.
Well, she's talking about early in a relationship. So everyone goes through tough moments early in a relationship. To me, that the fact that it is early, you give someone some line early. I mean, you cut them some slack.
Yeah, well, you're still getting to know each other, aren't you? Too,
and how long do you think that we were getting to know each other? What's that phase?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question.
So how long do you give someone?
28 years.
Oh, that's true, though.
But it is true.
Because
there's still things.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably harder to get to know than perhaps you are because I keep changing in my strange ways. Yeah, look.
But yeah, see, that's the question for me. Early in a relationship, it's like, oh, well, you know, 12 months. Is it for some dudes? For me, you know, it can be months, or then is it years, or when? At what point do you go, nah, I'm out?
Well, and how often did you buy me chocolate cake when you know that I hate it? I mean, that went on for years, didn't it?
Well, I wasn't buying you the chocolate cake. I was buying me the chocolate cake.
Oh, that's what it was. You just pretended you'd bought me a gift of chocolate cake. Went, oh, that's right, I forgot.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
That was many years.
Was it chocolate cake?
It was chocolate cake. You'd come home, which was very kind.
Yeah, right.
The kindness was there. That was the thing. It didn't bother me in the sense because you were doing something kind, but it was like, wow, he really doesn't remember that I hate chocolate cake.
You say you didn't quit because of love, and clearly there's been a lot of things through our 28 years which you could have quit easily.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it's just how you deal with the issue in the moment. We've been fortunate that there's never been a case of physical abuse or emotional abuse or anything like that in our marriage. That's a whole other ball game where you've got to walk away from things to protect yourself. You know, fights that come up that are workable are important to get through because that's part of the growth of who you are as a couple. I remember, I feel like this was one of our first fights. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was our first fight. And we'd been married for maybe 6 months or something when I was in Adelaide and I was doing guess what? And we were talking on the phone, you were home. And what's funny is that I actually don't remember the fight. Like I don't remember what we were actually fighting about, but I know it got really confusing for me. And you said some things that I remember I was really upset about and felt really hurt. And then we hung up in anger. And that's all. I don't remember the details other than that.
So you were in Adelaide, I was in Sydney.
Yeah. What I do remember is when I got back from Adelaide and I walked in the door of our house and on comes music from our wedding, the music that we walked down the aisle to, which was a song from Big Blue.
Yeah.
And on comes that, and then up from the couch arises my husband in the tuxedo that he was married in, barefoot, I remember that, with a rose in his hand. And you walk over to me and you give me the rose and you say, I'm so sorry. I was really unkind.
Did I say those words?
Yeah. Okay. Or something to that effect.
Okay.
And you also had another little gift for me, which was like hair clips or something.
That's all I could find.
Something really sweet.
Something that was still in its packaging.
But I just, I just remember that vividly because of the apology. And that was a massive apology. And because I feel like it really was our first fight. Right. And I think we set up early on, not by necessarily talking about it, which I think would have been a great idea to communicate in the beginning, is that we fought. We never name call when we fight because you can't take that back. And we don't fight nasty. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Because we didn't really raise our voices. We didn't really argue or have a lot of fights. But I think they're necessary. I think that there's a great quote from Deepak. It says, every great change is preceded by chaos. And so if you're not fighting, if you're not having that chaos, sometimes, there's no change. You just sort of mooch along. And then
that's if you create the change. Like if you get into a repetitive pattern of just fighting, then that's crap. That's horrible. Yeah, there's a fine line, I feel like. I feel like, yes, if you're going to have the fight, make it a fight worthwhile that you get something good out of the end of it, because otherwise you're just hitting your head over the same, same brick wall.
That's true. What I'm suggesting is our marriage really didn't take off until we learnt how to. I mean, it's a label, isn't it? Fight. We learnt how to fight fair, or argue. We actually had discussions.
Yeah.
Where we could talk.
Because I think what we really did, and I'm very much this is still part of who I am. I hate conflict with a passion. Yeah. So what I would always do in fight is I would shut down and I would disappear. I wasn't a person that brought things up to you or said, we need to talk about that. I am now, but I had to learn that. Perhaps I learned it too well. But yeah, in our early days, I was just like, I'm just not going to talk. And I think that's hard to be in a relationship when you're not getting that communication from like, what's going on? Why are you angry?
Well, it's impossible because you just don't know what's going on. So I think a lot of relationships will go, I don't know what happened. It just finished. We just finished. Because you never got into any depth of what, I mean, that's often been my track record, before I met you was often that, because I would acquiesce in fights too.
Wait. You had a girlfriend before me?
I had one, maybe two. But, so the difference between a fight versus an argument, which is, which is important to know. And I think for me, it's like, it's absolutely steer clear of name calling, of any personal attacks. Talk from your own perspective. One thing that I am totally guilty of in our fights is projecting all the stuff that you're doing, saying, well, you're doing this and you're doing that. And that never works, but that just puts someone on the back foot, and it always put you on the back foot. And also, an important thing for me, which you've taught me a lot about over the years, is the tone of voice as well.
Oh, that's huge.
And I did. Okay, so I did I taught my first acting class the other day with the kids at a local school. And one of the things that we do is a game called I Want You To, and I give them, one has a sentence and the other one has a sentence. And you can only say that one line, basically. And it's, I want you to, I want you to love me. And the other one says, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. And where that takes them in the journey is interesting. Well, one of the boys in that was doing it with a girl. And the boy, he was the one he was saying, I want you to, and she was saying, I can't give it up. Well, he started being physical with her. He wasn't touching her, but he was looming over her and really tried to dominate her.
Yeah.
Not only was the fact he was a year 12 and she was a year 10, which I found interesting, but as they went through the exercise, they did it and they found their way through, and there's no right or wrong with it. I found it really interesting. As I said to him, I said, do you think at the end of it you were going to get what you wanted physically looming over her or threatening her? And I think that that's one of the mistakes. It's not something that I like you said, I've never been physical with you.
No.
But I wonder how, when people do that, how do you really think you're going to get your need met if you're going to be physical with someone?
Yeah.
Unless you want them to fear you.
Yeah, which is never going to, that's not a healthy relationship right there.
Right.
That's never going to work.
Right.
And that's when the person in fear needs to look at that as a big red flag.
Right.
I think also, one of the things that we've learnt too is never use blanket statements. You always do this. I never do that. This always happens. That's a touchy one. That will usually raise most people's levels of anger up. Not sure too when that comes out of someone's mouth. I think that's one to stay away from as well.
Well, that's, you just nailed me on the head right there because
you always do it.
Yes, I'm the king of generalisations. Yeah, you always do that.
No, you don't anymore.
But I used to do it. A lot. And I catch myself. I still do it.
Yeah.
I still do it, especially when I'm having my talking sessions in the shower, when I talk to myself and have my conversations and write scripts and things for other people that I want them to say to me. But that's a big one, being general. And one that I've found has really helped. I don't know how long I've been doing this for, but it's probably only about 3 days. It is giving up the need to be right.
Uh-huh.
Because I find that when I've had that position, I've got to be right. What I'm saying right now is right, even though I know it's right. And the person I'm talking to, say it's Riv, our son Riv's 19. He and I butt heads a lot. And the things that we butt heads, I know I'm right. But if I go about that within our discussions or our what we're talking about, if I go up from a place of I'm right and you're wrong, he's just listening to Miss Othmar on Charlie Brown.
Yeah,
he doesn't
absolutely.
even hear it.
Mm.
So if I just, and I found it's really working, if I give up the need to be right and just say what I'm saying and let that hang rather than try and just nail it on the head. And get your validation or the kid's validation that I am right, it just doesn't work.
Mm.
So in that, it's like, watch my tone, watch when I'm starting to talk like this, getting excited, and that need to be right has really, really helped me out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. And, speaking of kids, one thing I know, and we haven't succeeded in this 100% of the time, though I feel like in 28 years, we've been pretty close to never fighting in front of the kids. I think we've been pretty close to that. There have been times when things have erupted in the heat of the moment. And I think, again, when you're talking about a fight versus an argument, there's times when you can talk through something in front of the kids.
I think important.
Is really important because that's teaching them tools, and that's teaching them that people that love each other sometimes have disagreements and still come to the end of an argument, love each other, kiss each other and go, okay, we're good. That's a really good thing. Though, particularly what it is you're fighting about as well.
Yeah.
You need to be really careful. I know, that was something that I grew up with my mum and dad. Coming from a divorced family, I saw a lot of them not talking to each other, and then when they did talk to each other, it was not in the greatest way. And that does make an impact on little kids. You're wondering what is going on and what's happening and why are mum and dad not loving each other, so.
Well, that was a tool that we got, was when we are arguing or, having a disagreement about something, was to make sure that if it was getting it all heated, one was to either just time out, we're going to time out, or or acknowledge to the kids that this is not about you.
Yeah, it's such a big one, isn't it?
Right, so that they don't think it's about them and
Yeah.
you're fighting over them and it's my fault. You know, that little kid going, God, this is my fault they're fighting.
Yeah.
Because it's not. And I don't think it's ever a child's fault that parents are fighting when you take full responsibility for why you're doing it.
Absolutely. And they should never feel like it's their fault ever.
No. Remember that time we were driving? So we were driving down Pacific Coast Highway. That's the highway that goes between Malibu to Santa Monica. And we were driving and Lotus was probably about 18 months old and Al and I were having an argument.
About running late.
About running late, that's right.
And one of us was in the shower and that made us late and we were trying to blame each other and yeah, go ahead.
And Lotus is in the back. And so there we are having this sort of heated discussion. Here's us just saying that we never fight in front of our kids. But it was a pretty heated thing, I guess, going on. And we just hear this little word come out of the back seat. Responsibility. It stopped us both in our tracks. We're like, what did you say, Lolo? She said, responsibility.
Yep, that was it. Then sat back in a little car seat and sung another Wiggle song. Yeah. We were like, holy moly, nailed by the 18-month-old.
We had a Buddha in the back.
Yep.
But it was absolutely true because we were not taking responsibility for what we were, for our part in why we were being late.
I wanted you to be wrong. You wanted me to be wrong.
Yeah.
It's time to upgrade to Awara, the organic luxury hybrid mattress made with natural foam and New Zealand wool fibre for maximum comfort and cooling. Rest easy knowing that every time you choose Awara, 10 trees will be planted to restore forests in Africa, and fruit trees will be donated to help local farmers get on the path to food security and financial stability. With free shipping and returns, plus a forever warranty, you can't go wrong. AWARA sleep.com and use code HEALTH for $350 off. Plus, we will plant 100 trees with your purchase.
I don't remember a lot of our fights. I don't remember a lot of our arguments. Like we were talking about this. We knew this was the topic we were going to be talking about today. And I was sitting there thinking about our arguments that we've had. And I don't know if it's a good thing or if it's not such a good thing that I don't remember. And I think a lot of the reason I don't remember is because in the moment when we are having a disagreement, that I innately don't like to fight. I don't like arguing, particularly with you. And I want to fix it. Mm-hmm. And then once it's fixed, I go, okay, well, that's set, that's forget. We're done. We move on. And I think that's also why sometimes I stumble into the same shit again and again. Because I fix it and then I forget about it. And often I don't take the learning from it.
Right. And
that's absolutely being, 100% responsible, I think, from my, we're using the word responsible, but that's being honest, that I think that's it. And it's a really, look, I'm vague at the best of times. But I think that's something that I still need to work on is that mindfulness.
Do you think that's a very common thing with men in relationships, that they just want to fix it and forget it? Do you think that's common? Do you find with your mates?
Well, I mean, I cannot speak for all guys.
Sure.
Generally speaking, I think guys innately are fix-it men. We do like to fix stuff. And particularly things that are broken. And if there's a relationship issue with your partner and it's broken, then you want to repair it.
Yeah.
And, guys want intimacy. They want to feel close. And if that's not happening, then, a lot of guys will do whatever they can to make sure that that's right, that they're getting those needs met.
And that's where we've come undone at times, isn't it? Where you've wanted to... I've been telling you something, you've gone to fix it when all I've really needed is just you to listen. Those moments where, because I understand where you're coming from. You want it fixed and done because it's sort of like a leaky faucet. You want it fixed where, you know, I just need you to listen and just be there and go, I hear you, and I'm...
Well, that's the script. That's the script that we need, because I feel in my mind, it's like I can see how to fix it for you, but you don't want me to tell you that. Most people don't want advice. They don't want the advice. They just want to know that they've been heard.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
and sometimes they'll ask for it, but sometimes not. But yeah,
I reckon 80% of the time they don't want the advice. They just want to know that they've been listened to, and then in that support, in that moment that you've been listened to, that's when you find your own answers.
Yeah.
You know, the innate goodness comes out. So that's when you find out where your own wisdom is there. You know the answer to that question. So with guys, I think, and for me, I'll speak for me, that I have in the past wanted to fix it quickly so that you feel better, so that I don't have to worry about that anymore. That part of the relationship's intact. Let me get back to my work to get the money in to pay the mortgage, or or whatever else it is, because there's just, my head is so full of stuff of creating my dreams and making sure that there's, we live in a great house, or that we've got food on the table, the school fees are being paid for.
And this is also something that we've had challenges with, isn't it? Because it's sort of the amount, as much work as you're putting into careers and earning money, and there needs to be at least equal amount, I feel, putting into the relationship. I feel constantly that you need to check in and go, because I think those relationships that just get left alone without being tended to, they're the ones that suddenly I woke up and I'm lying next to someone I don't even know anymore, because we've shared nothing, we've worked through nothing. I don't feel like he cares. I don't feel like he listens to me. I feel lonely in my marriage, and that's where divorce happens, and that's very much, I think that's quite often again, I know we're generalizing, but often a bit more of a female orientated feeling.
Yeah, and that's, I understand that. And that's not often the way we as guys are taught. We're not brought up that way. It's sort of like, I paid for the wedding. We're married now. You've got your house and you're in your fine clothes and you've got a comfy couch to sit on and there's food on the table.
Now be happy.
Yeah, that's it. And that's taken care of. And then because often we weren't exemplified by that primary relationship that we grew up with, on how to navigate maintaining a marriage. I never saw I don't think I ever saw mum and dad fight. They didn't raise their words. Dad would just shake his head and roll his eyes and walk off. And then mum would have a few complaints to us, and that's kind of how it was. So
going back to the original question, of biggest hurdles in the beginning of our relationship. So really it's upbringing then. Do you feel in what you've just said, it's how we've been raised to be in relationship. You were raised, you saw your mum and dad navigate it one way. I saw my mum and dad in a divorced relationship that, wasn't healthy. So do you think that they're the biggest hurdles because of how we were raised?
Well, quite possibly, because that's what you're bringing in.
Yeah.
That's what you're bringing to the relationship.
Yeah.
So if you...
And I know we've talked about this, that often, and it's a weird one, I know, but it's so true, that girls often marry someone just like their dad, and men often marry someone just like their mum. And we bring those people, that relationship sort of into the marriage.
Yeah. Does that mean you're going to start playing golf soon and throwing pots and on the wheel and stuff like that?
Like your mum. I'd love to be as creative as your mum.
I'm sorry, I totally cut you off.
Wow. It's just never going to go away, you wanting me to play golf, is it? That's just, I think when literally we're both in wheelchairs and can't even speak, you're going to be still writing notes going, can we play a round of golf? It's just never going away.
I just want to hang out with you, honey. And something I love to do,
course.
and I love hanging out.
Yeah. In small print. As long as it's on the golf course and we're playing 18 holes. Yeah, got it.
Some people write that into a contract. We must play golf.
They do not
They
in
do
a marriage
so.
contract.
Oh yeah, speaking of golf, I played
No.
with these two guys, Chip and Pepper. Their name were in America. They were twins, and one of them got married and had his contract. He had to get a blowjob every Sunday, and she signed it. Silence.
I had my brain splintered into multiple thoughts. I was trying to go. I have so many things to say about that.
I don't know if they're still married. I haven't seen him.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know, actually. Look, I guess if it works for them, it works for them.
That's right.
I find that kind of misogynistic in so many ways. I wonder what she got in return.
Yeah, I'm sure she got
if it
something.
was
Lunch in Beverly Hills once a week.
well, but that's so typical to say that, isn't it? Maybe what? Well, in the sense of like.
I'm glad I'm typical.
Sense like blowjob and she gets a luncheon, or a diamond ring. Like maybe she wants more of listening. Maybe she wants him to sit down and go, honey, tell me about your day. Tell me how you feel.
Okay.
Maybe that would be, maybe then she'd really want to uphold the contract. You know what I mean? Like this idea that it's, a luncheon for a blowjob. I don't know. Maybe it is for her, but that wouldn't be what I would be going for.
Well, that sort of takes into another. What you're talking about there is mindfulness, right? Him saying, say if it was like in the contract, he gets a blowjob on Sundays and she gets 30 minutes of uninterrupted speaking time, right? Where he sits and he listens. Doesn't say a word.
Once a week, 30 minutes.
Whatever, But he does. But
I know. We're talking about a contract. We have no idea what really it's
but
about.
What I'm talking about here is how to get that connection back with someone, or to sustain a connection with someone, to keep things fresh and rolling. And they talk about that term mindfulness. And I was reading something the other day. It's to actually sit there and mindfully notice 5 new things about someone. And that, like, wow, look at your, I look at your hair all the time, but your skin is absolutely shining right now.
Oh, thank you.
Right. And you don't even need to say it to the other person, but actually just to notice something about it. And it keeps the relationship alive, where it's like, oh God, this again.
Yeah.
But it's notice something new. It's like in acting, often I would need to, if I was working with a guy or a girl, and it's a love scene or something, and if I'm not attracted to this person in any way, shape or form, I've got to find something that I am attracted to about this person.
That's actually really interesting, because that brings me to another great point about staying in a marriage for a long term. I think it's really easy. We can get on a roll sometimes where all we see is the negative in our partner, and we can just start pulling at the little bit here and a little bit there, and all of a sudden you've got a whole lot of things that you don't like. And I think that finding those things when you're feeling that roll on and on and get bigger, go back and go, what are the things that I fell in love with him or her about? What are the things I am grateful for about, with my partner? And start seeing the things that you like again. And that just shifts the perspective, because I think it's too easy to start seeing the negative.
What about when it's something that you loved about that person and you're mourning the fact that they're just not doing that anymore?
Well, then I think that's a conversation, that's a conversation to say, I remember when you used to bring me a cup of tea first thing in the morning, and we would sit and we would chat for half an hour. I loved that so much. Can we do that again? Because I feel closer to you when you do that.
See, I'd be all over that.
Right? And that's all it is. And it's also being vulnerable enough to say it, because that's often where we put up walls and don't sort of open ourselves up to those sorts of things. So I think that's as simple as it would be.
Coolio. Well, thanks, Fern D, for your question. Everyone goes through tough moments early in a relationship and they walk away. You guys must have Why Didn't You Quit? That's really good.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
If you have any other questions for us, you can hit us up on Instagram. Yours is?
At Cameron Datto.
That's easy to remember. Mine's at Ali Datto.
Oh, it's even easier to remember.
Right?
Makes yours might be a little difficult because they want to say at Ali Bray, but...
Yeah.
At Ali Datto. Okay, till next time, remember...
Separate bathrooms?
There you go.
Bye.
Does your little one love Paw Patrol? What about dinosaurs? Well, perfect, because the new season of Paw Patrol is here. And guess what? It's a dino rescue. I can't wait for my kid to watch each episode 10 times a night. On the plus side, all your holiday and birthday gift shopping is pretty much done because, of course, there are a whole new batch of dino rescue toys, too. And for a limited time at Target, get 15% off the new Paw Patrol Dino Rescue toys with code PAW15. Paw Patrol Dino Rescue. Check it out. It's gonna be pawsome.